Let's talk logistics. Hello lovely, my name's Zoe, my brain's a dragon, and in case you hadn't noticed, we're getting pretty close to Nano at this point. And that means I also need to figure out what I'm doing in terms of making it possible to actually do National Novel Writing Month. I'm in the process of testing out a new planning process, which is tons of fun, but just in case you missed it, the last section that I did, which was more detailed and actually had a lot of outlining in it, kind of made my brain curl up in a ball and start to whimper and wish it was under a blanket. So I looked at the logistics so that I could start to make some positive progress and, okay, a little bit of positive procrastination, not gonna lie, but also set it up so that when I do hit National Novel Writing Month, I'm gonna be a little bit more prepared and feel a little more confident about my capacity to actually meet the targets that I've set of 50,000 words for the 30 days. How did I do it? Let's get into it. The first thing that I did is I went around and had a look at my previous tools that I have used, and I came across the Heart Breathing's Preptober workbook for this year, which realistically speaking, I'm just going to link because Heart Breathing's has got a huge amount of fantastic resources that I go back to on a fairly regular basis, particularly for the logistical stuff. She's got a really lovely handle on it. It's very cool. So the first thing that I actually did was have a look at what sort of metrics I could use in order to make National Novel Writing Month look a little bit less scary. Because when you think about it, 50,000 words in a month is a bit daunting. But that's why the National Novel Writing Month group break it down into 1,667 words a day. Nice and simple. But will I actually have 30 days to write? And this is one of the first questions that you work through in the Heart Breathing's workbook is how many days do you actually have to put in words? And I think this is fantastic, particularly for someone like me who really should work in flare days so that if I do something and I am exhausted, I don't have to sit there and be like, I have to write all the words. If I don't write all the words, everything's going to stop. Less panic, more productive. So what I figured out is if I take weekends off, that will give me a total of 22 days in the month to write. And if I add in that I am possibly going to have an additional flare day during one of each week, that will give me a total of 18 days to write. Now, it sounds like I'm basically cutting the month in half, and it's pretty close, but that's okay, because if I know that going in, if I decide that I can write on the weekend, I've got a couple of bonus days. How good is that? It gives me wiggle room, and wiggle room is fantastic when you're managing an unpredictable brain dragon. This then meant that I recalculated my word count goals for Nano based on both the 22 and the 18-day totals. I needed to get either 2,273 or 2,778 words per day in those 22 or 18 days. With those word counts for those days in mind, I then panicked. Why? Because 2,000 words a day, nearly 3,000 words a day, sounds really big and really scary. I decided that I needed to clean my desk, which is also a very good thing to do. I needed to check if I had enough stationery. I needed to double check all of the things that I could possibly think of which there is a list in the Heart Breathing's document, so that was fabulous. And then I went and did the math. I took out my sprint trackers because I have been tracking my sprints and my word counts using a modified version of the Chris Fox 5,000 words per hour worksheet that he's got available so that I can see what kind of data I collect, because collecting data means you could analyze it. You cannot figure out what's going on if you don't have the data. In my case, what I did was I looked at my average sprint lengths, my average word counts for those sprints, and my average words per hour for those sprints. Why? Because averages make it easier to sort of generalize the information. I found that my averages for word counts were about 500 words for a 15-minute sprint, 700 words for a 20-minute sprint, and 900 words for a 25-minute sprint. I checked the words per hour, and it turns out that 15-minute sprint actually more effective for me, which is really nice. And then what I did is I took those numbers from the word counts section and I divided those by my average per sprint so I could figure out approximately how many sprints I would need per day to get it done. I need 6 15-minute sprints, 4 20-minute sprints, and 3 25-minute sprints, and that's basically for any of the word counts because there's enough leeway in the percentages at that point to get me over, which is exactly what I wanted. This means that if I'm doing 15-minute sprints, I need about 90 minutes of writing time. If I'm doing 20-minute sprints, I need about 80 minutes. And if I'm doing 25-minute sprints, it's about 75 minutes. Now, that's not including any breaks between them, obviously, and it's also not taking into account things like the 25-minute sprints maybe makes my hands a bit sore because typing for 25 minutes at that speed is gonna have consequences, but those are my averages and those are my basic numbers, which means I also know, based on those averages, how many total sprints I will need over the course of the month. If I'm doing 15-minute sprints with 500 words as my average, I'm going to need 100 of them. Simple math. I like it when it's simple. If I'm doing the 20-minute sprints, I'm going to need 72 sprints. And if I'm doing the 25-minute sprints, I'm going to need 56. Thereabouts. Remembering that all numbers are going to be averaged because we worked with averages. I did also run some calculations so that I could adjust if I was doing, say, 600 words or 800 words, but that's fairly fine. They're still within that bracket. So knowing that I'm going to need 90 minutes for each writing day with 100 sprints in total gives me my top edge, which is fantastic because if we work to that as the idea that we're going to get, anything under that is a bonus. Once I'd done that, I went and did some of the other things that you're supposed to do. I went and checked in with my writing groups to make sure that they still were they are and that people were doing Nano or would be at least willing to participate in sprints. I went and signed up on the Nano website because that way there's more writing groups. And now that we're starting to have some less shenanigans, it might be possible to do things like virtual write-ins with some local writers, which would be really good because Australia and time zones and it can get a bit wonky when you're dealing with the rest of the world. I also spent some time going through reward lists. Not gonna lie, I am terrible at reward lists, like not very good at all. But with the help of my friends, because that's what friends do, we managed to come up with some really nice simple rewards, and I have a rewards box. So this is a little dragon so that it makes sense because it's collecting my hoard of rewards. And we just have folded over sticky notes that vaguely stick together, but I will do my best not to look at them when I'm trying to open them. And these are ones I have enough so that I can have one basically every day. So if I meet my word count or I put in a good effort, but like it fights me and I cry a lot, but I still tried, so let's reward the try, shall we? I can just go check in with my rewards dragon and my rewards dragon will give me something that I'm going to enjoy and something that is easy to sort of manage. I've got things like bubble tea and actual other tea and biscuits and various other things that are in my list there. So, dragon. I also sat down and did some prep for the documents. So I now have my document that I'm going to be writing my draft into. I've got my world building document ready to start adding details in, including all the templates in place. I have figured out what kind of exercise that I want to do because realistically speaking, when I'm better in touch with my body, my brain has less to talk to me about because if my body's like, oh yes, we're doing the thing and we've got this and it's great, then my brain doesn't have to be like, excuse me, are you aware your body is doing a thing? You need to know your body is doing a thing. Okay, thanks. Okay, I'm just going to keep telling you repeatedly. Is it annoying yet? Is it annoying yet? Is it annoying yet? And I also sat down and had a bit of a think about what kind of food I'd like to eat because, let's be honest, eating is a good thing. So this week I'm actually kind of tracking what foods make my brain dragon happy, what foods make my brain dragon discontent, and which ones I like eating because sometimes those lists don't always line up right. So it's been a bit of a logistics week, and realistically, I think that it's probably not a bad idea to do some logistics. That way when you go into Nano, you're not suddenly going to be faced with a lot of problems like where do I even find the time to write. For me, it's pretty simple. I've got a really flexible schedule, brain dragon allowing. So it means that if I do need to get in 90 minutes of actual word time, I can find it during my day in bits and pieces, and that's okay. For other people, that might be more of a challenge, just depending on what you've got in terms of commitments that you already have in place. Logistics, they are important. This is going to help make my National Novel Writing Month this year a little bit different because the reward box is new. I will let you know how that works, but given the amount of impact that checkboxes had in our planning process this year, I have a feeling that the rewards are going to go down well. I am going to try and get some more actual planning done while there is still some time because we are very close to the end of October at this point, and I would like to have a little bit more done before we actually hit Nano. So I'm going to go make myself a cup of tea. I've got some stories to plan, some adventures to be had, and I will see you next time. Bye, lovely.